Hey guys, Daryl from JCR Offroad. Today I'm going to talk to you about our trusses and gussets for various model Jeeps. This really won't be a full installation video because if you bought these, I'm pretty sure you kind of know how it works, but I want to talk to you about some welding tips and like exactly where these pieces go. I'm going to demonstrate on a JK Rubicon 44 that just happens to be under this Cherokee, but it really doesn't matter. These concepts are going to translate to the other models just fine. Let's get started. First thing we're going to talk about is welding to this center section here. Now on most Dana axles, at least the ones that we're going to make trusses for, this is cast steel and not cast iron. And that makes a big difference when you're welding. If it was cast iron, we have to take a lot more considerations to post-heating and preheating and peening while we're welding on this. But with this, we can be a little more lax, but you still want to remember that it's a little harder to weld this mild steel to this cast steel. So I'm going to give you a couple little tips on that. All right, I'm going to demonstrate with this passenger side truss first. As you can see, it fits on there great. No gaps, nothing like that. Now against the axle tube, obviously you're going to clean this off first with a wire wheel or sandpaper or whatever you want to do. Against the axle tube, what I would say is you're going to want to weld this little spot right here. You're going to want to jump over to the opposite side and weld that spot over there. Then you're going to want to wait. Let this thing cool down. Maybe if you're running the other gussets, you can kind of tack weld those or weld a spot on those. You don't want to put too much heat into this gusset because what that can do is that can actually warp this tube. So just go slow, take your time, you're not in a rush. So after that kind of cools down, you weld here and you weld that spot, and you'll just do that until this is welded on the tube. That's great. Now on this center section portion, if you've got a big welder like a 220 volt welder, as long as this is really clean and you put quite a bit of heat to this, you're not going to have to worry so much about preheating and post-heating and peening and all that. Now you can, if you want to be super thorough about it, great. Heat this guy to about 300 to 400 degrees, weld it, let it cool really slow. Even with a big welder, that's going to give you a stronger weld. If you've got a smaller welder, you're really going to want to pay attention to preheating this center section. Now you don't want to get it too hot because you don't want to burn the seals out inside, but you want to get it warm enough so that when you stick that welder to it, it's already warm and that metal starts flowing right away. And the same thing on here is you're going to want to weld a little piece, maybe a ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch, jump to the other side, weld a little piece, move on, let it cool. Keep doing that just to make sure that that this is welded and it's not going to warp or anything like that. And you don't want to weld this whole section. You want to leave some little gaps. That's fine. It's not a problem at all. So that's that guy right there. Now if this was on a JK, these spring buckets are out a little bit more. So we actually provide you with these guys as well. And these, just like this is going to fit on this side. It fits perfectly around that center section. And this is going to fit on the passenger side right here between this upper mount and that coil bucket right there. On this side, you don't have to worry at all. It's all steel, no problems whatsoever. On this side, it's the same concept. You're going to be welding it on steel as well in the center section. So the same stuff that applied on this one applies on this side. Just take your time, make sure the metal is clean before you start, and you won't have any problems with this, I promise. Now these lower control arm skids here, I really recommend just removing your lower control arms. That's going to make it a lot better. You're not going to melt the bushings or the heims or whatever you've got. So just drop those one at a time and then clean up your factory control arm mounts here, and then these guys go right on there. And as I said before, you don't put a ton of heat into these guys. Weld one side, let it cool. Weld the other side, let it cool. You take your time and you won't have any problems with warping or anything like that. It's the same on both sides. These are going to be really easy. Now for these inner C gussets, and there's definitely some special considerations with these guys that I'll go over for you. First thing you're going to want to do is clean all the paint off, the inner C and the tube itself. Use a wire wheel, use a sander, whatever you want. These guys fit on great, there's no gaps you have to worry about, anything like that. But what you do have to worry about is these ball joints have a plastic race inside of them. And if you put a lot of heat on that plastic race, it's going to melt, it's going to ruin your ball joints. Now if you need ball joints, this is the time to do it. This is a great time to upgrade. Go ahead and pull this guy all apart, pull the ball joints out, weld these in, and then put your new ball joints in. That's really what you should do if it's time for a ball joint. But if it's not time for ball joints, what you can do is take a wet rag and place it on the top and the bottom ball joint. Now make sure that water doesn't run down into your weld, but what you're going to do is it's going to help keep these guys cool. Then you're going to weld these ridiculously slow and very short steps. So maybe a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch, jump to the opposite side on the bottom. And be careful because these C's can absorb a ton of heat and they're going to push them right into these ball joints. So you're going to have to go extremely slow. Now there's not a lot of special welding considerations with these inner C's, not like this guy right here. If you've got a big welder, just burn them nice and hot. If you have a smaller welder, you might want to preheat if you're worried about it, but it should be just fine. But you know, just burn these in, take it really slow, and you'll be just fine. Now on this rear truss, we have a JK Rubicon 44 here as well. This truss isn't going to sit on here perfectly because it's got all the XJ brake lines and parking brake lines that you won't have on your JK, but we're just going to use this as an example. It's the same kind of deal as the front. You're going to weld on the tubes, which is just regular mount steel, and you're also going to weld on this cast steel center section, and it works just like the front. Make sure everything's nice and clean. If you have a big welder, the heat will probably be fine, but you want to stitch. You want to go a little weld here, a little weld there, let it cool, keep moving around, take your time, and this will go just fine. That's it. After you get these things welded, clean those welds up and go ahead and prime and paint these and then go beat on them. I mean, that's what they're for. If you have any questions about fitment for your specific application, give us a call and we'll help out. Thanks for becoming part of the JCR family. Talk to you soon.